Hi guys, welcome to another class of Spain facing the 21st century. And today we're going to move ahead into the 90s decade and we're going to talk about the return of the right. How the Popular Party, we're going to talk about it, won the elections in 1996 and held power until 2004. We're going to be talking about these periods between today and Monday's class. In today's class, we're going to divide it into three different parts. We're going to talk first about the reinvention of the People's Party. You will see where this party came from. We're going to talk about José María Aznar leadership, who was president of the government between 1996 and 2004. And last but not least, we're going to talk about the economic approach that the Populist Party, Partido Popular, took over this period of time. So in the first video, I'm going to talk about the reinvention of People's Party and what happened until they got to power. And in the second video, I'm going to talk about the other two topics. So let me tell you a little bit where Partido Popular was coming from. And this was not a new party exactly. Actually, in 1976, we were transitioning, Franco had just died, and we were reopening Spain, and we were trying to figure out how the Spanish democracy was going to look like. And the most conservative part of the regime established themselves as part of, created their own party, and this party was called Alianza Popular. Alianza Popular was created by this guy over here, who was Manuel Fraga, who was shaking hands with Franco in an old picture. Why? Because he was a minister of Franco's government. First, he was Minister of Tourism. Later, in 1974, 1975, he was Minister of Interior. So was a relevant minister. However, if you remember from the class on the transition, we also mentioned the role that actually Fraga had during that transition. In the first government, the Arias government, remember that one, the one that was not really pushing for the transition to democracy, he was a member of the cabinet that was trying to pressure Arias to steer him towards democracy. And then he supported Adolfo Suárez when Adolfo Suárez was in power. So Fraga actually was the one bringing all all the democratic conservatives, so to say, I'm talking about those who believed in democratic values, not in the dictatorship, who brought them together. The results in the elections were very poor. In the very early elections, they barely gained any seats. But as Adolfo Suárez parties collapsed, in 1982, they brought together all the votes in the right to this party. However, it was not up until the late 80s. Remember that the hegemony of PSOE during the 80s? It was not up until the late 80s when they started figuring out how to become an electoral threat for PSOE. And this was in 1987, actually, when Manuel Fraga stepped down as president of the party, and he led this person in the middle there, Hernández Mancha, to become the leader of the party. Actually, what was interesting about Hernández Mancha is he had no connection at all with the dictatorship. He was actually, when Franco died, he was only 24 years of age, so there was no connection, and he was a university professor, so it was a fresh leadership, fresh start facing 1989 elections. However, the results of 1989 elections were as terrible as the previous ones. They didn't challenge PSOE. PSOE won an absolute majority in parliament. So another change was needed. Hernández Mancha was not enough to bring the party to the succeed that they wanted. And in 1989 Congress, Manuel Fraga gets back to politics, and he actually he vouches, so to say, for José María Aznar. José María Aznar was a young politician, very successful, because he actually at that time he governed the regional government of Castilla y León. He had won seats in parliament in other regions. So he seemed a young talent, so to say, to drive the Partido Popular to the success they needed. And so we did. In 1993 elections, José María Aznar was a candidate of the party, and he was very close to beat PSOE. Actually, PSOE got 159 seats, Partido Popular 141. So it was a close gap that actually allowed Felipe González to stay in power. But that election is very important. Why? Because they changed the narrative in a sense. José María Aznar this was the first time in Spanish history that there was an electoral debate. Actually, those debates are on YouTube if you want to go and watch them. I'm not going to show them here. But those debates were interesting because there were two of them. And Felipe González was an excellent public speaker. If you remember from previous classes, we said that his leadership style was very charismatic. And actually, José María Aznar in the first debate, there was a consensus that actually José María Aznar beat Felipe González. In the second one, actually, it was the other way around. Felipe González was better prepared for that one, and he actually beat José María Aznar, eventually won in the elections. But what this brought up was actually the idea that he was a contender. He could be president. He could challenge González in the next elections, in the following elections. And so he did. In 1996, People's Party is completely reinvented, and actually when José María Aznar understood that he didn't do well in the previous elections, in the 1993 elections, was that he didn't bring the party to the center. Well, but at the end of the day, this is a Gauss bell, and most of the voters are in the center, as in most societies, so Spain was no exception. So Partido Popular and Alianza Popular were too much to the right, and what José María Aznar did in the early 90s, it brought it to the center. He tried to position himself in the center of the spectrum to gain more votes. And actually, he succeeded in 1996. And he even talked about ganar el centro, to win in the center. And that was the motto of the party during those elections. So the reinvention of People's Party, of Alianza Popular previously, at this time Partido Popular, finished in 1996 when they actually finished the path towards the center. And this is actually, we say normally in Spain, el camino al centro, the path to the center, eventually finished in 1996. And this brought José María Aznar to Moncloa. Actually, that's like our White House between 1996 and 2004. But we're going to talk about that just after the break. So see you in a minute.